So let me talk about a few things, okay? So I feel like the cards are split up like this, two at a time. That's what it feels like to me. So let me talk about the way the energies are playing out in these cards. So first of all, I do see you looking back at your past, okay? There were situations where I feel like this impulsiveness to get things done, to be decisive, to move ideas and act on ideas. It's like moving things from the realm of ideas to the realm of the real world. So like acting on your ideas, bringing your ideas forth into the world. See what floats and see what sinks. Okay. And so I feel like there might have been an impulsiveness about you, or like, wanting very badly to move on ahead despite not knowing all the information. Okay. And I feel like for many of you, this is like, a culmination of things that happened within the last 5 years. And I feel like the 5 year mark was quite important for many of you, because that was when you felt like your life really accelerated, okay? That was when you felt like a lot of decisions, important decisions, had to be made in your home, in your love life, in your financial situation, and especially in your professional life. And so I feel like you had to be quick on the uptake. You had to grab life by the horns. You have to really go out there and put yourself out there to find opportunities, and pretty much grabbing opportunities as they come in. And I feel like in the process of grabbing these opportunities, you didn't know whether or not something is going to be a good fit. You didn't know how things were going to transpire a few years down the line. And I feel like for many of you, you acted on pure instinct, okay? It's just kind of like, what do I want in this moment in time? And I felt like whatever it was, you went for it. And I feel like there might have been some, unintended consequences as a result of it, okay? Some of you might have rushed into situations, especially like with people, relationships, and things like that, where you didn't know all the information. You didn't know what it entailed. You didn't know the other person too well, okay? And what's really bringing that bringing home that message to me here is we have the Eight of Swords. And the Eight of Swords is pretty much like this bird, blindfolded. Not having all the information at your disposal, not knowing what's around the corner, not knowing how the paths are going to be played out or are going to unfurl ahead of you, and not knowing what the future is going to bring. And we have the Ace of Swords, and this is pretty much, acting on or making a decision when we don't have full access to all the information. Okay, when we don't have the full knowledge, when we don't have the full disclosure. So I feel like for the past 5 years, many of you were in this state where you felt like very passionately guided towards something, either a career change, either a relationship. And I'm seeing a lot of you mesmerized or even taken in by a relationship partner who was very exciting, who was very exotic, possibly somebody who's very different from you, like culturally, ethnically, linguistically. I feel a sense of somebody who hails from a foreign land, or somebody who is just, very, very different from you when it comes to their upbringing. And the way in which they come into your life here with the Knight of Wands, this is someone who's just very passionate, who stirs your passion and who brings about, a new way of doing, a new way of thinking, a paradigm shift in your life for many of you. And I feel like in a way they're very, very different from you, and that makes them quite interesting. And as a result of it, I feel like for many of you, you dove into a situation quickly, and you didn't think about, all the consequences. I feel like for many of you, this was a situation where I'm sensing that this person might have been very in and out of your life. Okay, they, with the Knight of Wands energy, they're not the most stable people. They're very fun and exciting, but they're kind of here today, gone tomorrow. They're not somebody that will be there when things get rough. They're not going to stick around when, you know, when you need them. They're not going to be there with a shoulder to lean on when you have a bad day or when things are not going your way, when you need to vent, when you need that emotional reassurance. This is pretty much not the right person that's going to be around to do that. And I feel as if whatever the dynamics of this relationship is, I'm sensing that it's lacking in soul and it's lacking in passion. And I also feel like even though some of you could be in a relationship with this person, might have been in a relationship with this person, the dynamics of the relationship was very much like you felt alone. You felt like they didn't understand you. And you felt like there were times where you needed that emotional connection or that emotional reassurance or that emotional understanding from the other person. You wanted that and you needed that. But for whatever reason, they were not there. They were not available. And I feel like for many of you, they might not have made themselves available. Okay. And I feel like what it boils down to is, Aquarius, you pride yourself on being very independent and very self-sufficient, right? And I also feel like you are not a type of person where you need emotional reassurance, where you need reassurance, you need affirmation, you need the positive feedback. You're not that type because, you know, once again, this is a card about decisiveness. This is a card about relying on what we know to make decision. Okay, Ace of Swords. Making the executive decisions without needing to consult anybody. So this is pretty much your energy as you walk through life. You know where you stand, you know how you feel, you know what you think, and you know what you believe in. And as a result of that, you have always been the one to make executive decisions without needing to bounce ideas off another person, or without even needing to another person to kind of like tell you you're on the right path. And because you have been always very independent, this is your card, the Star. I feel like the other person kind of took that for granted. They kind of felt like, oh, Aquarius doesn't really need me. The Aquarius doesn't need my affirmation, or they don't need my reassurance, or they don't really need me. And so I feel like in this situation, it's sort of like two people who are very independent, wanting to do their own things. And in a relationship, it might have been very difficult for these two people to work together. So the energy and the dynamics between you and this person, I just feel like it created an emotional rift, and you might not have known how the emotional rift started. You might not have known, you know, how they perceive you. They might not have known how you perceive them. You both were not very aware of each other's needs in an emotional way. And they, more than anything, were not really aware that you needed them, that you needed that constant reassurance. You don't ask for it. You don't need it on a regular basis. But when you need it, they were not there. Okay, so the bottom line is, when you needed them for something, this person was not there. And I feel like it created a situation where you tell yourself, you know, they're never around anyways. I don't need them. I can do it on my own. I can forge ahead. They're only going to slow me down. And so I feel like, you know, through those periods of disappointment when you were dealing with this person, I feel like it toughened your skin. You know, it made you a little bit callous, and it made you a little bit like, I don't need them. I don't need anybody. I can do this on my own. And so you embody that energy. So if this person is still in your life, you're coming to the realization that, you know what, they have never been around. Either it was subconscious on their end, like choosing not to be around, or either they didn't realize how important it was to me that they're around. And once again, you are not a needy sign, okay? You are not somebody who constantly wants attention and who constantly wants reassurance. But when you need that reassurance, it means a lot to you that the other person was there, but for whatever reason, they were not there. And I feel like you're coming to terms with that fact, and you're coming to terms with the fact that they were not around in the past. Who am I kidding? Who am I? I need to kind of accept this at face value, and I just need to accept this person at face value, that I cannot rely on them, that I need to forge my own path. Okay. So I feel like this is, a very significant relationship for many of you within the past 5 years. I feel for many of you, you might have like really jumped into this before you knew the other person really well. Okay. I feel like there was definitely lack of information here. There was definitely lack of like, expectations, being, both parties were not very clear with expectations. And then I feel like there was, a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a lot of kinetic energy. And you both found yourself kind of wrapped up in each other, and kind of, it's like a whirlwind romance. And it took over. There was a lot of infatuation. But once again, this is like not seeing the person truly for who they are. Falling in love with somebody that it's like, being in love with the idea of being in love, or being in love with the vision of what you thought the other person would be, without knowing all the full information. And so you're looking back now at this situation with, in hindsight, with clarity, with 2020 vision, and you're starting to see it for what it is. And I feel like if this, for many of you, you've come to terms with the fact that if this doesn't work out, if, they're leaving my life, I'm okay with that. So once again, this sense of acceptance, this sense of peace, this sense of I'm okay on my own. I can make it on my own, and I will be fine. I'm not going to let myself get disappointed again. And I'm really, truly seeing this person for who they are. Okay. So for many of you, I'm hearing, like the malaligned expectations. Okay. So if this is, for example, this is not a person, but like if it's a job situation for the past few years, I feel like you were kind of like your professional life and your career life meandered. Okay. It's like, let me just dabble over here and see if this is a good fit. Let me dabble over there and see if that works out better. So I feel like it was, jack of all trades. Okay. Like trying to figure out your niche, trying to figure out where you fit in, trying to figure out what you're good at, and trying to figure out where you excel and what brings you emotional happiness. And I feel like for you, variety is the spice of life. You enjoy having multiple projects going on at the same time. You enjoy like doing this, but also like having a main job, but also like a side gig. You enjoy juggling things. You enjoy having multiple avenues of creative expression. So for many of you, I feel like, you're not stuck in just one job. You have a job, you have multiple hobbies, you have friends, you have like so many avenues for your creative expression. And as a result of that, you feel like one job can never fully emotionally satisfy you. For others of you, you feel like a regular 9-to-5 job will never, ever be in your future because it's not exciting enough. And then for others, you feel like one relationship partner will never be enough for you because you don't want things to be stagnant. So there is has been a major fear here of committing yourself, a major fear here about, letting life stagnate, being stuck in one situation, one job, one circumstance, one relationship. And so I do feel like you were aware of, and I do sense for many of you, this might have been the past 3 years, you're aware of how your inability to commit, or your fear of commitment has really gotten in the way of, progress. Okay. or even stability in your own life. And I have here the Two of Pentacles, and this is, pretty much that juggling act, okay? Having multiple things on your plate, having multiple projects, having multiple avenues of creative expression that really makes life very dynamic and exciting and interesting. But it can also create a state of anxiety. So just look at this creature. And what I'm sensing is too much of it can be a little bit exhausting to maintain. Too much of it can give us that sense of instability. Look at how his feet is off the ground, okay? He's always dashing to the next thing. He's always looking around. He's always like scanning the horizon for new opportunities and thinking about where the grass is greener. So being this jack of all trades, I feel like, the trade-off is that it brings about this sense of instability where you don't know something truly deeply, where you don't invest the time and the energy and the resources to build something, one solid thing from the ground up. And I feel for many of you, we have here the Judgment card, and this is kind of like that reckoning, that realization, being awakened to how this lack of commitment from your end could also be very detrimental to your own emotional stability. And it can be detrimental to the ways in which you can really enjoy your life and feel fulfilled, okay? Because once again, like I said, I do believe in like past life and reincarnation and things like that. And I feel like our soul's purpose in each lifetime is about mastering a lesson, mastering a skill, being very, very good at something, knowing something inside and out, and being able to master that. And once we master that, we have conquered pretty much our destiny. And so those lessons don't repeat. And then once we master something, we can take those skills to bring it to a next work environment, to bring it to a next life, to bring it to a next situation. And we will be able to handle life with a lot more ease and grace because we have mastered these lessons. And so you're starting to see now that, there's honor and there's a tremendous sense of pride that can come about as a result of doing something really, really, really well. No longer juggling, but mastering something and being very good at something and being kind of like an expert in your field where you know something inside and out. And then I also feel it can bleed into the relationship aspect where you're just like, I'm done with, the whole spiel, the whole dating situation, the whole finding somebody and then getting bored of them a few months later. And you're setting your intentions and looking for something that is a little bit more authentic and a little bit more real and a deeper, much deeper emotional connection. Because like I said, this is a relationship where you did not know the other person very well. You jumped into a situation thinking that emotions and all of that and excitement should be enough to propel the relationship forward. But then you're starting to realize that, it was really lacking in emotional connection, emotional connectedness, and emotional fulfillment pretty much, okay? So we have here a bunch of lessons and a bunch of self-realizations, things that you are finding out about yourself, things that you are coming to terms with from your past, things that you have, your eyes have been open to, okay? And so this is where you were, and I feel like you're still thinking about this heavily. How could I rush into a situation so strongly? People were warning you. I feel, Seven of Swords here. This is about, all the things in your external environment, family, friends, coworkers, confidants, colleagues, whoever it is that you really respect their whose opinions and point of view you really respect. I feel like they told you about a specific course of action, and I feel like they were giving you advice. They were telling you or trying to steer you in a specific direction. And as independent as you are, Aquarius, I feel that you beat to the you walk to the beat of your own drums, and I feel that you like to find out things. You like to experience things. You like to be in the driver's seat in your own life, and I feel like you were not listening. Okay?